It's good to be with you tonight. I want to talk about the second beatitude of Jesus. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. As you and I will find out, all 8 of the beatitudes are difficult for us to understand. I remember Mary Oliver recently passed away, a poet. She wrote a long poem, and one of the lines stood out to me. Be in this moment, she said. I thought to myself how difficult that is for most of us to be in the moment, to be present to the present. If you're like me, I tend to live much of my life by looking backward, remembering the pleasurable things, but also reliving the painful things. There's also a part of me that wants to look forward, to anticipate the not yet, the what is before me that really none of us knows. Living in the moment, that is difficult because you and I, if we have lived life for any length of time, we know what it is to be pulled back and pulled ahead to things that are both painful and pleasurable. The last time you heard your mother's voice, you remember it, but you won't hear that voice again until you're on the other side of eternity. The brother whom I love so dearly, 8 years younger than I, in the church, doing his funeral, I look back. He was the kind of person that I could talk to about anything. And I so much wish I could pick up my phone and call him. Blessed are those who mourn. Do you think Jesus is talking about the personal mourning that we do in our lives? The things that we've lost, the things that we grieve? He may have been talking about that. He may have been saying, there will always be a hole in your heart. But with trust in God, maybe there will be some comfort in the living of your lives. John Claypool was pastor of the Crescent Hill Baptist Church in the late 1960s. I was a student at Southern Baptist Seminary. I didn't hear him because I had a church, but I got a copy of the sermon. His 10-year-old daughter, Laura Lou, passed away one snowy January night. When John came back to the pulpit at Crescent Hill, his sermon was based on Isaiah 40:31. There will be days when we will mount up with wings like eagles, times when we will run and not be weary, and times when we will simply walk and not faint. John preached that text in a way that I never heard it before, saying that he was at a point in his life when he couldn't mount up with wings like eagles. He couldn't run and not be weary. He was at a point in his life, the grief was so intense, just one foot in front of the other. But those of us who have read that sermon have found deep comfort in it. Maybe Jesus was talking about those personal things that happened to us. Or maybe he was talking to his disciples, those 12 apostles gathered on the side of the mountain, and saying to them, I want to talk to you about the world in which we live. Jesus' world, filled with the Roman Empire. The power was with the empire, not with people. People taxed, people abused. Jesus saying to these people, in the midst of the living of our lives, you will mourn, but maybe somehow, not easy, but somehow in the midst of the mourning, you and I will be comforted. How much we need that today. How sad we are about what is happening in the very land in which Jesus grew up. I don't know what your politics are. I don't know what side you're on. 6 Jewish captives slaughtered by the Hamas. A few days before, a Palestinian father going to get a birth certificate for twins, and when he got back, his wife and his children had been killed by an Israeli rocket. We ought to mourn. All of these people are human beings. And if you and I don't have the capacity to mourn human beings that are being killed, then we have no capacity to ever be comforted by trust that maybe somehow, some way, someday, there will be a ceasefire. We had a law passed in Kentucky that said nobody could sleep on the streets and families could not live in their cars. Many of those families had children. In Fayette County, the home of Lexington, there are 1,100 school children who sleep in their cars. And the state legislature said, we're not going to allow that. We're going to fine you. Can you imagine fining people who don't even have a bank account and no money in their pockets? My friend Richard Gaines, who is the African-American pastor of the Consolidated Baptist Church in Lexington, said, I tell you what we're going to do. Our parking lots, our church parking lots are holy ground. And you can bring your car and park on our church parking lots, and you will not be disturbed. I mourn those people who have nothing. But what a thing for a minister to do, to say this church is holy ground. You come, sleep in our parking lot, bring your car, and you sleep. Being in the moment. So many times I just go back and relive the wounds of life. So many times I look ahead and I'm afraid. God, will you help all of us to have the hope that right now, in this moment, we can trust in you. And maybe in that way, even in the worst of our mourning, we will be comforted. Amen.
Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Comforted. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Comforted. The Father of compassion, the God of all comfort is He. He will bind up the brokenhearted and bring healing, hope, and peace. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Comforted. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Comforted. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who